So around the late 90s to early 2000s, the platforming genre received a massive boom in popularity, thanks to the likes of Super Mario 64, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Crash Bandicoot. Every company out there wanted to do their own spin on the genre. From this, international sales had to also be accounted for, resulting in a variety of changes occurring for localization. One you may or may not be familiar with is the Japanese localization for Rayman 2, The Great Escape. Rayman Kaizoku Sen Kara no Daishutsu, translating to Rayman Escape from the Pirate Ship, is the original Japanese port for the Dreamcast. But if you were to look into said port, there might be something that strikes you as weird.
I'm really sorry, okay?
What is wrong with you? Why are you blue?
The first thing that should be clarified upon regarding the Japanese game is that the game was heavily altered texture-wise. Alongside Rayman's outfit being changed, a variety of other characters appear to be simplified, colored differently, etc. Rayman and Sam in particular are both originally purple, but made to be blue and green respectively. The first thing a lot of videos covering the topic will say is that purple means death in Japan, but never give a proper source to clarify on that. So, I didn't believe this comment to be true until finding the now defunct Ubisoft Divertissement Inc. website. In an article roughly translating to Special Feature Localization with Ubisoft, it goes into some of the process for the Japanese version. Alongside having to create new fonts for the game to account for the characters, the Japanese Ubisoft team created a focus group to judge on redesigns to appeal to audiences. While not clarified, it can be speculated test audiences consisted of Japanese children. Think how kids' cartoons will occasionally have children themselves watch shows for critiques. It's a common technique used to appeal to a specific test audience. In any case, the first thing mentioned is that Rayman's shirt had to be changed because, quote, purple is a symbol of death and disease, end quote. It was thus changed to blue, but that brings up various questions. If you were to look up any article regarding colors in Japan, purple is commonly listed as a royal color akin to the West. At most, the color used to be banned for peasants, according to Gorilla Sally on Like Japan, but nothing regarding death. However, Freddy Townsend's Why Do Japanese Games Like Pokemon Represent Poison Using Purple and Not Green states that purple is typically used for poison. The article goes over a discussion on Japanese Twitter, where most users agree that when they think poison, they think purple. The article speculates that this is due to wolfsbane being a common poison ingredient, and Japanese people having a more plant-based diet. Thus, when food rots, it may turn purple unlike meat, which typically turns green. Obviously, they do eat meat too, just the West really loves meat. In any case, it can be presumed this was the reason for the color change, but this ignores one big elephant. Lee. In the Japanese version of both the Dreamcast port and Rayman Revolution, Lee is given a white and dark purple outfit with a facelift as well. Her purple hair is also kept the same. Most of the changes regarding her aim to portray her as an ally, thus giving her softer face features, for the original at least. I'm not sure what happened in Revolution. And adding white instead for the beige matching her skin tone. But no alterations occurred with the purple aspects. Furthermore, the bonus stages with Glowbox's children keep the purple fairy at the end. It is worth noting that Japanese media does have hero characters with purple. Examples include JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, with Jotaro Kujo's stand ability, Star Platinum, and Shinobu from Demon Slayer, who uses poison attacks. Thus, it isn't that taboo either. The United States also has purple commonly used for villains in the likes of Disney movies, for example. There is also the Japanese version of the Spyro games to be considered, where the character is always purple for the mainline games despite the other localization changes regarding controls. At most, the GBA game Spyro Season of Ice has Japanese artwork which gives him a light blue whilst keeping him purple in-game. Something doesn't add up here. It is worth noting that Rayman has also been depicted as purple in game prior via the first game. The Game Boy Color game is the same, outright being referenced in the article from giving him an extra finger. This one is far more clear, as in Japan, lacking a pinky is typically associated with the Yakuza. Wild seeming at first, but a common method of punishment for mafia members is cutting off the digits of one's finger. Thus, multiple video game series would either add or remove another finger.
A notable example would be Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, removing a finger for the protagonist's species. Rayman 2 was considered for this change, but wouldn't from being too complicated, aka having to make a new model and animations. Furthermore, Mickey Mouse is popular in the country despite the lack of Pinky. Games such as Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends, and Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope also keep his purple hoodie, latter even being dubbed in Japanese.
おや、君も?
The Pinky change concern also seems to have died down as Yakuza 0 outright depicts the act, but better to go back to my main point.
No matter the case, the French staff at least believed purple equating evil to be true for the protagonist. While by all means speculating, I am personally of the belief that the outfit change for Rayman was also made for both accessibility and to make the character more cuter for children. I say accessibility as, when looking into Japanese reviews for Revolution, a few claimed the environments would sometimes be too dark to see. The neon blue sticks out much better than the dark purple color. Furthermore, Japanese characters such as Sonic and Mario also have blue in their designs, so having Rayman also be as such would match with that trend. This would also explain why Sam specifically turned green. Keep in mind this is just me speculating for a bigger meaning despite a clear reason already being given. This then leads us to the other characters. Now previously, I mentioned that the design change for Rayman might have also been to make him more cuter. But what do I exactly mean by this? Well, when you look into Globox and his family, it becomes much more clear. Their Japanese counterparts have a more simplified texture and a lighter mouth. The Ubisoft article claims this was to make them more sympathetic, but these specific changes align with Japanese mascots, specifically Sanrio's usage of simple designs and lighter palettes. Dakota Times article by Charlie Campbell. Hello Kitty's modernist abstraction and lack of facial features allow her to be interpreted in different ways by different people. No laughing, surprise, or tantrums. Her expressionless visage provides a blank canvas for the beholder to impart their own feelings. While the example is more so regarding emotions, the same can be said for the company's character designs. Simplistic allows for the viewer to project themselves or interpret more easily. This appears to be the mindset used for the remaining cast. However, Jono, despite technically playing an antagonistic role, is also altered, turning from a purple and scaly green to red and a simplified neon green texture. This appears to have been an attempt to make him less frightening, despite also keeping the chase segment where his teeth border around the camera. However, something strange about the game is the lack of kanji. To quickly explain, kanji is borrowed Chinese characters used to imply a word's meaning. For example, hanasu. The character at the beginning is kanji and says the word means to talk. This is usually done to avoid confusion from how contextual the language is. Minus the title, nearly all of the dialogue from what I saw lacked it. This is likely because the font had to be made in-house to match the French font, thus would have taken the game even longer to release if done. Rayman 2 in particular will also use said font for cartoony shouting when completing certain objectives. Thus, a pre-made typeface would not work. The lack of kanji may also be due to the target audience of being Japanese children, thus making it easier for them to understand. It is worth noting older Japanese games also lack kanji, but this was more so common in the late 80s due to technical limitations. While I am still here, something I would like to briefly go over is the Japanese pronouns some of the characters use. In Japan, while there are third-person pronouns, off the top of my head there's primarily just kae and kanojo, being he and her respectively. Koitsu and aitsu are basically this guy or that guy. First-person pronouns are what you call yourself. While English only has a few, such as I or me, there are several long lists of different pronouns someone may use depending on the context in regards to Japanese. For example, watashi, atashi, and boku are typically used when you are speaking to someone of higher authority. In fiction though, Japanese first-person pronouns are used to indicate a character's personality. Rayman uses boku, which fiction-wise is typically used by young boys or men. This makes sense as his depiction is still young, even if he's clearly older than the first game's counterpart. This is the same pronoun also used by Globox's children. He's also not knowledgeable about the world, outright not knowing who Polycus, the equivalent of God, is, until being told. The 4 King Teensies encountered at the various ruins use washi. Washi is typically used by old-fashioned characters who are out of the times. For example, old sages or kings in role-playing games will use washi. As they are indecisive, and constantly debate on who the true king is, it suits them perfectly. Lee uses watashi. Watashi is a gender-neutral pronoun and typically the first one learned by foreigners. It is considered a more soft-spoken pronoun. It and atashi are typically used by female characters. However, characters such as Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter also use it, who has also been shown to use ore, which is a masculine pronoun. In Lee's case, it's mainly used to portray her as a friendly ally. Murphy uses oya. Like ore, oya is typically used by men. The specific pronoun, however, is most notable for starting a controversy with the Japanese localization for Undertale, where the character Sans uses the pronoun rather than the typical boku or ore. The reason is it being considered a country bumpkin sort of pronoun. Usually characters who use this are playful joke characters or small, which Murphy fits both. Glowbox switches between boku and his own name. The latter is consistent throughout most translations, as the English version also does this. It is worth noting though that for the Japanese version of Rayman in the Phantom Show, Rayman also uses his own name. Thus, a character doing as such isn't considered caveman speak. It is, however, done specifically with silly characters though. The game's antagonist, Razorbeard, uses ore-sama. As mentioned, ore is typically a masculine pronoun used by more gruff characters. Ore is also what Jono uses. However, Razorbeard adds sama to the end to show his selfishness. Sama essentially translates to Mr. or Lord. Using it towards someone else means you greatly respect them or are lower than them. Using it with yourself, though, means you're self-centered or prideful. While common in villains, Rabbit Mario for Sparks of Hope also uses it on occasion when boasting about himself. For any other notable information regarding the game, I thought it would be interesting to go over Japanese people's thoughts. However, I had better luck finding information for the Japanese version of Rayman Revolution. For the game's Amazon page, one person compared the character designs to Disney, but found themselves getting bored from how wide the areas are. The other review there compliments the OST, and found the game challenging and well made for the time. The complaints regarding a too large area appears to be in reference to this stage, the Sanctuary of Stone and Fire, which English fans have also had issues with. A few people have also complained about the Sam section, which, honestly, the sentiment is shared. The character himself, as you can presume, is barely known at all in Japan. In 2015, an incident occurred where a fake leak of Rayman was released. Said leak claimed Rayman was a playable character in Super Smash Bros. 4. Source Gaming compiled various Japanese reactions to the incident. As mentioned, most did not know who he was. Some players were fine with the potential addition, as they felt it would be a nice inclusion for Western fans. Others were not as positive, commenting Smash was becoming a, quote, American game. Okay, first off, he's French. After it was revealed to be fabricated, many became upset. With all that stated, when people look into the localization for Rayman 2, a lot of people see it as a case of censorship. While I myself am not a fan of most of the changes, I understand it was an attempt to market towards a specific demographic. Saying that specifically is censorship also unintentionally infantilizes Japanese people, acting like they would even faint at the idea, especially as Lee and the bonus stage fairies also remain purple. Instead, the changes do not fully work for one specific reason: the story. Rayman 2, no matter the language, involves the likes of slavery, child labor, environmental concerns, and begins with Rayman locked away in a cell. While it is nowhere near M-rated, it is a very gloomy game throughout, which the facelift contrasts too much from. The original characters are bizarre looking to add into the message of hope always finding a way, even in the bleakest of times. All in all, changes as huge as this don't really occur nowadays, as shown through the UbiArts games and Sparks of Hope DLC. So if someone tells you that Japanese Rayman is blue in any other games besides Rayman 2 and the Revolution remake, they're lying. And before you ask, Rayman 3 was never released in Japan to my knowledge. Rayman Raving Rabbids, called Rabbids Party instead, was, however. The same can be said for its sequels. If we count all of this, then Rayman was only portrayed as blue in-game twice.